Yo, what is up guys? It is me, K. Carl Mayor, and I am here right now to talk to you about one thing and one thing only, and that thing is health systems. Now, what is a health system? So a health system typically consists of institutions, government agencies, people, and resources that are all mashed up together for the specific purpose of providing the necessary health needs of a target population. So for our first subtopic, we will be talking about sociology of health and illnesses. So for sociology and health and illnesses, it talks about the interaction of health and the society. This makes perfect sense since the society contains members that do need health requirements, and they do have health needs and health issues. Now, how does sociology and sociologists view health systems? So for sociology, the main point is that people with lower socioeconomic statuses usually spread diseases more faster and more rapidly than any other type of people, since modern medicine does help a lot in preventing such diseases. But then it also makes a case that people who are used to higher socioeconomic statuses will become less immune to these diseases, but since they have money and modern medicine on their side, they're just as exposed to these diseases. It's just that they're treated well. So for example, a person who's living in Japan, who happens to be in a great industrialized and technology and medically advanced countries, will be less immune to diseases compared to someone from Africa who's generally been through some rough environments and through some rough times. But then that person from Africa at the same time would be spreading diseases more rapidly than the person from Japan, because where he lives, there is an advantage when it comes to modern medicine, and he has a higher socioeconomic status. That's just an example. There are many things that could happen, and these things are very situational, which is why sociology of health and illnesses is viewed in a global standpoint, just so we can grab a higher and bigger sample size of the world. Our next subtopic will be a shorter subtopic. It's going to be about the health systems in the Philippines. So there are 3 health delivery units in the Philippines: LGUs, CHDs, and RHUs. So LGUs are local government units like DOH. CHDs are Centers for Health Department, and RHUs are Rural Health Units. So all these 3 units are combined, and they are strategically placed in different areas and locations in the Philippines so that they will deliver the necessary health needs of the Filipino people when they need it, where they need it. But it's not always that effective, but still we're trying our best as a country. The next subtopic will be about cultural constructs of health and the Filipino attributions of illness. So each country has their own health or illness attributions and their contributions. The Philippines has many, I believe, and that these health attributions are things that may sound crazy to you, but it's the Filipino culture. So one belief in the Philippines is usog, or it's not really referred to as usog here from where I live. I don't know about other areas in the Philippines, but to us we just refer to it as pagbabate, or it's nababate. So usog is, or nababate, or pagbate, or whatever, means that when a person or a visitor comes over your house, and that's just an example. So if a person or a visitor comes over your house and says something positive about you or a family member, that might counter it and then give that person suffering. For example, a person came to my house and then would tell me, "Oh, you look good today," and then tomorrow there was a belief that maybe the next day I will wake up with a deformed face or something to counteract whatever the visitor or the person said. So that is basically usog. So in short term, it's a belief that people who say something positive to you will become negative and become the exact opposite the next day. So it's basically Like it's almost like reverse karma for some reason. So that is one of the many health beliefs of the Philippines. So next is we have the bughat or binat that we refer to it as binat here in the Tagalog regions. So it's basically fever. I think it's fever you get from being tired of doing something. For example, giving birth is a very tiresome task. I can't relate to that because I don't give birth, but so the belief goes that you need to do something like consume coconut products or rub coconut oil to actually cure it. I mean, there's no clear scientific evidence of this being true, but still, I'm not disrespecting the Filipino culture. It's our country's belief. Next subtopic is actually a very interesting one. It's Filipino systems of diagnosis, prevention, healing, and health promotion. So I can relate to this a lot. So growing up, I thought that many of the things that Filipinos do to prevent, especially fever, is the actual correct way of curing fever. So for example, when I was a kid, if I had a fever and I had a really high temperature, they would put ice on me. So that's basically what Filipinos believe back in the day, and even up until now, is that the body is a vessel that contains impurities, and those things can be counteracted by the exact opposite of what's happening. So for example, I'm having an illness from inside my body. For example, let's say I have diarrhea. What they'll do is they'll let you exert waste even more, or they'll let you eat some things. If I have fever, I have a really hot temperature, they'll apply ice, which is, I mean, it works. If you have fever, another thing they do is they make you sweat, or they just let you vomit until it's gone. Sometimes it works, maybe that's just the placebo effect. I mean, I'm not an expert, but it's been working on me, and I've never seen other countries actually perform these things. I mean, I've seen ice packets on other people's heads from other countries, but I've never seen a parent just wrap his kid around a blanket in another country like America just to cure him of fever. So I mean, that might be unique to us. So the next subtopic will be about health beliefs and behaviors. So the Philippines has many beliefs, as I've mentioned before, but what's different is the behaviors on how they're going to avoid the consequences of those beliefs when it comes to health. So first of all, Filipinos, when it comes to health, they prioritize balance and very little change, or gradual change if there are any. So for example, Filipinos hate sudden changes in temperature. They do believe that it causes sickness, and because of this, it might cause a placebo effect on the mentality of younger Filipinos. And then as they get older, when they experience sudden changes in temperature, they'll think that, oh, I might get sick, and then the next day, because of some placebo effect, they might get sick for real. I think that's how it works. So that's number one. Rapid shifts from hot to cold could lead to illnesses. Next is warm environment is an essential thing to prevent from illnesses. So the Filipinos believe that being warm or being in a warm place could prevent you from being sick. I mean, there's sort of some truth to that, since bacteria thrive in colder places, but other than that, I don't know, because I think the reason why Filipinos believe this is because older ancestors of the Filipinos believe that when we die, our bodies get colder, and they suddenly think that having a warmer body prevents you or puts you far away from death. So that's basically what that belief is built up. Next is cold drinks or cold food should not be eaten during the morning. I get this a lot, but it doesn't really affect me. I do drink cold drinks during the morning, and it doesn't affect me in a health standpoint. But I did read about a research that's saying that hot meals and hot water does help the body wake up or energize, since hotter food and hotter water contains more energy. It helps the body wake up and be prepared for the rest okay. But that doesn't mean drinking cold drinks and cold food and eating cold food will necessarily lead to illnesses. So that's just a Filipino belief. Next is the body is vulnerable. So I don't really know with the flip-flopping on these beliefs. They say that cold bodies are bad. They say that having a hotter body is bad. So the thing here is Filipinos love balance and gradual change, or even no change at all. They strongly believe that sudden shift in temperature is one of the main reasons why we get sick. I'm not so sure. I mean, there's no actual solid scientific research that can back that up. But next, number 6, we have heat and cooling can relate to quality and balance of air in the body. So there's one thing we refer to in the Philippines as napasukan ng lamig, which if I translate napasukan ng lamig to English, it literally I don't know, you have some cold air went into your body. That's a very rough translation. There's no direct translation to that, but that's the general idea, is that when cold air goes into your body, it causes some sickness or illness. I think I've experienced this one or twice. Many people actually do experience this. I don't know if that's an actual thing or a placebo effect. For the 7th thing on this list is sudden changes in weather patterns. Cool breezes, exposure in the evening hours to low temperature, intense heat immediately after a lengthy rain, and vapors rising from soil may upset the body balance. So yeah, the Filipinos are still strongly believing that body temperatures cause illnesses, which is, I mean, I can sort of give them credit. It's almost true. Well, some of it is actually true. I do believe that some temperature shifts can trigger illnesses and sickness, but I just don't necessarily believe that all of them could, and that it happens all the time. Maybe sometimes it's placebo effect, as I mentioned before. So next up, we have the Filipino theories of health and illness, or the Filipino theories of illness in general. So these are 4 theories that are the main causes that Filipinos believe in when it comes to their sickness. So first is the mystical causes. So this is something that relates to doing something that's generally not good, and then it backfires on you by taking a toll on your health. For example, you're unruly and you disobey your parents, and then after that you'll just get sick. That's it. Another side to this theory is when you eat a heavy meal, because that for Filipinos, that eating a very heavy meal more than what you need is a bad thing to do, and it leads to nightmares which lead to death. These are called bangungot. Next is the personalistic causes. So these are the more mystical and magical, dark magic type of things. Other Filipinos who believe in this attribute their illnesses to people or sorcerers or witches or bad spirits that gave them the sickness for some reason, but I'm not here to disrespect. So let's move on to the third theory. The third theory talks about naturalistic causes. Now I don't know about this one, so I mean the first two were I didn't believe those two. This third one I still don't believe. So naturalistic cause includes basically natural phenomenon can cause illness. For example, a thunderstorm may happen outside your house, and then the next day you're gonna get sick, or fog, or earthquakes, something like that. I mean, I can get behind the idea of storms causing sickness, because bacteria easily spread during rainy days, and storms cause very wet environment which bacteria thrives in. So I sort of believe in that little part of this theory. Next is we have bacteria or viral causes. This is more scientific, so it talks about allergies, and maybe the reason why you got sick after a large meal wasn't because it was a bad thing to do, but because you got food poison. Maybe it looks more into the forensics and to the more scientific method of figuring out why a person is sick in the first place. So basically, this is the real deal. I would actually buy into this bacterial or viral cause of sickness, but not all the time. I mean, sometimes it's not even bacteria. that causes sickness. Sometimes it's genetic, sometimes it's placebo, as I've said multiple times. So next subtopic we're going to be talking about is cultural health actors. So when it comes to Filipino cultural health actors, so I'm not talking about actors on film, I'm talking about people who act as solutions to health needs and necessities, and they try to act like they fill in the gaps of the health necessities of the people or the target population. So one of these four health actors is the albularyo. So the albularyo can be seen as the general practitioner in Philippine culture. They do a lot of weird stuff. I mean, it's not, I don't want to call it weird, it's unorthodox. So they do a lot of unorthodox healing practices. Sometimes it might work because of the placebo effect, as I mentioned multiple times, but most of the time it just doesn't work. For me, that's my experience. So the next cultural health actor is the manghihilot or magpapanak. So these people are actually more effective, I think, especially when it comes to physical body pains, let's say dislocated bones, or a woman trying to give birth. These people are actually effective most of the time. Some of them are not. People actually survive from being given birth to by manghihilot and magpapanak. So I could say that there's sort of effective, but let's go move on to the third cultural health actor, which is the mangloloob. So this cultural health actor is just, I don't believe in his services. So the mangloloob is basically a guy who tells a person where to go to. So he doesn't actually propose to even heal the illness or the sickness. He just tells you where a person might be able to heal him or her. So to me, that's just inefficient and ineffective. So I don't personally believe in that. Next is we have the medico, which is a pseudo doctor. That's how I would refer to him, a pseudo doctor. Why? Because he or she will provide prescriptions and he'll act professional about how he will heal, and all medicals will do that. But then they're doing other pseudoscience and pseudo medical things like acupuncture, which sometimes work. So it's like mixing old school medicine with Western medicine, which is it's not effective all the time. But I am aware that these medicals will cost you a lot of money, so watch out for that. Also, another thing to consider with these four cultural health actors is they like to consider themselves their abilities, since most of them did not finish a degree in any degree in medical science or any medical related degrees. They will, when you ask them about where they get their skills from, they will just say that. Now, when it comes to health as a human right, this is basically the building block of health system, because I don't think that anyone would create health systems for free like we have now in our country if health wasn't a human right. So this is the reason why health system exists in the first place, because the health as a human right is the basic principle of it is that every individual is entitled to be given help in terms of their health needs and health issues for free by their respective government, because they are the target population of their government and of their society, basically, is what it's saying. So health is a human right. Now, there are the human right to health entitles every individual to three following things. So the first thing is the human right to health guarantees a system of health protection for all. So as I've said, all individuals are entitled to the human right of health. I mean health in general, because as long as you're alive and you're a part of a society and you're a part of a country and you're a part of and the government is serving and the government is serving under your country, you are basically entitled to the human right of health. Next is everyone has the right to health care. They need and to living conditions that enable them to be healthy, such as adequate food, housing, and a healthy environment. So not only are they entitled to be treated when they're ill, they're also entitled to be given an ample, healthy enough environment that they won't actually be ill in the first place. So if many people are ill in the country, it's not necessarily 100% those people's fault. Maybe it's on the government side because they're not taking care of their citizens, or is it because of the society because they aren't implementing the human right to health. So the third one is healthcare must be provided as a public good for all, financed publicly and equitably. So what this means is that the human right to health must not be given to people by the government because of profit. It must be given because people are people and they have the right to health. So that's basically saying that you can't bypass this human right to health, especially if you're in a high position. If you're a government official, you can't bypass your responsibility of looking out for the people's health because it is a human right. So I think that's where we'll end for today when it comes to health systems. I hope you've learned a lot. I've discussed these topics very briefly, and I've discussed them in just enough so you will have a background on what these things might mean. And I understand that it's important for everyone to be aware of the health system, since all of us are a part of a health system, and at the end of the day we shouldn't be uneducated when it comes to our health and how the government should and does handle our health and our healthcare needs. That's all, and thank you for watching.